if you can hear me right here. All right, here we go. We're going to start. There's a big mess at the Panama Canal. Now, I did a story about 6 months ago about this topic. As a matter of fact, I got some very interesting comments. Let me know if you remember this video. And it was about a drought that has been over the entire area of Panama. And a lot of people did not realize that the Panama Canal, the locks that fill up and drain down to be able to lift ships up to that next level and get them across that very, very extremely vital artery in our supply chain in the shipping routes and the shipping lanes, is not filled with salt water. It's actually filled with fresh water. Now, that entire region has been suffering a drought. We have seen incredible shifts in weather patterns around the world. We have seen over the last 12 to 15 years, the jet stream drop in America. We have seen the agriculture belt move drastically in our country. We are seeing amazing changes in our globe, and people aren't ready for this. We are seeing so many things that blow people away. And honestly, the lack of knowledge is what causes the malaise and then later on the panic. All right. So what is happening is the lakes are not able to keep filling, right? They're dropping. So the Panama Canal, the companies that run this have told shipping companies about 6 months ago, we want you to bring less goods. Fill your ships with less items. We need you to be lighter because we cannot float you or we don't have the water to bring you up. And so what has happened over the last 6 months is shipping companies have obviously brought less goods, less items on the ship. Why wouldn't they just go right around the bottom of South America? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because it is insanely expensive and longer, especially when you're dealing with goods that are perishable. All right. So what does that do? Brings shipping costs up. Now, check this out. We not only have a situation with the Panama Canal, and do me a favor and type 1 if you believe that our supply chain is about to get completely detonated, not only because of stories that I'm bringing you right now, excuse me, but also because of geopolitical threats and wars that are battling right now. This story is out of Zero Hedge. It's entitled Big Mess. Panama Canal hit by 200 ship bottleneck. So I brought you the story 6 months ago showing that companies were being told, shipping companies, to put less items on their ships, so they have to charge more, right? The fuel hasn't gone down in price. As a matter of fact, fuel is going up in the last 6 months since they were told to put less goods on their ship, all right? So they have to charge more because they got to still move that ship, right? Down through the Atlantic, down through the Pacific, all these different oceans, pay the fees to go through the Panama Canal. Now they have to deal with higher fuel rates. All right, now we have another problem. We have got a bottleneck. It says right here, a parking lot of vessels has formed on either side of the Panama Canal as a worsening drought in the Central American country has reduced the number of ships able to sail through one of the world's most important trading routes. Wall Street Journal counts more than 200 vessels currently waiting to transit, a figure that has been climbing since the canal capped daily transits to 32 per month from an average 36 under normal conditions. Isn't that interesting? Just a drop of about 12% of the amount of ships that can pass through the canal is now all of a sudden causing this bottleneck. Pretty amazing. If it gets any worse, what is going to happen to the price of shipping? Shipping is already getting more and more expensive. We're also seeing, now think about this, we're seeing the dry Baltic index collapse. We are seeing shipping costs go down in our country. Why? Because there's less goods being sold, because the American consumer is being tapped out. Consumers all around the world are being tapped out because of inflation, because of lack of savings and other things like that. And even with less items being bought, less purchases happening on Amazon, less freight shipping around the world, we have 200 vessels in a bottleneck right now. Think about if this was happening during the shutdowns, when everything was exploding, when people were spending money like crazy on Amazon. Think about that. It says Pacific and Atlantic entrances of the critical waterway are dotted with vessels. The Wall Street Journal said some ships are waiting more than 20 days for access to the canal, forcing some carriers to reroute because of the bottleneck. Think about ships that are carrying food. That's that many more days, 20 extra days to the shelf life of your food. It says here, and you can see by the thumbnail that I put on all of the ships, the directions of where they're waiting and all that stuff, the bottleneck all up against both shores of the Panama Canal. The delays are changing by the day. Once you make a decision to go, there is no point to return or deviate. So you can get stuck, said Tim Hansen, Chief Commercial Officer at Dorian LPG, which operates more than 20 large LNG carriers. Since our May 22 report, Panama Canal hit by shipping restrictions as water crisis set to worsen. I covered that story on this channel. The draft restriction on the canal appears to have remained at 44 feet. That's the depth at which the ship is going underwater. For some context, a 50-foot draft is considered average for the canal during normal weather conditions, though a recent drought has left Lake Gatun, the largest of two lakes that feed the canal, with extremely low water levels. You know, I remember people email, the clickbait was insane. Anybody that do a video on Lake Powell. Lake Powell's draining, Lake Powell's draining. And people are like, holy cow, what's going to happen if it drains all the way? Well, it wouldn't, obviously, because you have the Colorado River. There would be something in there, right? But think about this. This is a water supply that is threatened right now, that is so serious, it is going to change the landscape of shipping goods from continent to continent. It says here around 6% of all global maritime traffic passes through the canal, mainly from the US, China, and Japan. During the 2016 and 2019 droughts, the draft limit went as low as 43 feet. Retailers and energy companies use the canal for extensive trade between China and the rest of Asia and US. The restrictions have led to a bottleneck on the waterway that forced some ship operators to reroute. What does that mean? Longer wait times, higher costs. It says waiting time is one thing, but it's also the uncertainty, says the CEO of Oslo-based Advanced Gas. The CEO continued on to say the Panama Canal is a big mess these days. 20 days in a queue is unprecedented at this time of the year. Climate alarmists in the mainstream press have conveniently blamed climate change for Panama's drought. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I do not believe this is climate change. I believe this is a normal cycle in the Earth's movement over long periods of time. The only problem is most scientists, you know, they read the books by a bunch of globalists and they don't understand longer cycles. Do you believe that this is climate change? Type the number 2. If you believe that this is normal for the Earth as the axis moves, as it spins and goes through a longer cycle, type the number 3. I believe the latter. I don't buy any of that crap. Point being is this. We are in unprecedented times, and with unprecedented times needs to come unprecedented planning. So what do? You have some food storage. You understand that things are going to get a little nutty. If you think things were nutty in 2020, I don't think you've seen anything yet. But the point being is over the next year or two, as we move into the next presidential election, you want to take advantage of this. And you want to be in a position to take advantage of this, because the last thing I want to see is the banks take advantage of this and you walk away with nothing. So get prepared. Don't be scared. These are exciting times. There's so many different ways to prepare. If you're new to the channel, do me a favor, type the number 5. I'll know that you're new. I thank you so much for watching. With that being said, I've got a really big story to get ready for. In about an hour, it's about the banks, and it is a lot of information. So I got to get going. The Economic Ninja is out.